Greetings, family. Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective. My name is Kayode, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for 20 years. Grand Rising Collective's here is to cultivate greatness in ourselves and our community.
And my name is Kayode, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for over 20 plus years. My contribution to Grand Rising Collective is to help cultivate that greatness in ourselves and the community through impactful discussions, seminars, and webinars with my co-host, Kayode.
Yeah.
Nobody
But do we always have to be so heavy?
Yes, it has to.
Why?
Well,
Because it's like, I'm sorry, Cal, I don't want to cut your wisdom.
no, go ahead.
But please keep your thought.
No.
It's like medicine. Damn, do I have to go to the doctor and get this shot? I don't like it, but that going to help you. Medicine, medicate. Don't. Damn, do I have to go to school? Why I got to go to school, ma? Grammar school, high school.
Let me tell you.
Mental.
Cal, keep your thought.
Yeah.
This my short thought. I used to love Blackish. I love Blackish.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun show.
Mm-hmm.
There was aspects of the show that reminded me of things that I go through in the dynamics of my family, one growing up and then as a parent with my child.
Mm-hmm.
I started to get turned off with Blackish because I was just like, what they started talking, they started talking about more heavier things. And it was just like, I'm over it.
Mm-hmm.
I deal with those heavy topics. And when I say heavy topics, they were already dealing with heavy topics because that's why the show was Blackish. But then it started to become very upfront and in your face. And it was like, okay, here was a great family show, very much for me, like the Cosby Show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cosby Show talked about things that every family talked about. Your kids don't want to do their homework. They don't want to clean their room. They talking back. And that's what appealed for so long to so many people, is that while the show did have topics where they talked about race, they did have shows, where they talked about gender. I can appreciate, when they talked about Theo having dyslexia, because, my child has that. So they talked about general things, but it was still a good family show that had humor behind the message. Mm-hmm. Blackish was that for a while, and then it just shifted and it became this thing like, oh God, what's going to be the message today? And to your point, why does it all, for me and many of my friends, we were like, why does everything have to get to the point where it's so heavy? Why can't we just have something where we could just continue to laugh and just turn the world off for a second?
Got you. Cal, hold your thought.
Very good, Chin. Hold on, Cal.
I'm on it. All right, so notice what happens when the topics really start to get addressed is when the powers that be pull the plug.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because ratings started dropping. I stopped watching. I did not watch the last 2 seasons of Blackish.
Hold on. The ratings didn't drop.
Sure.
The powers that be distribution was cut. Don't get it twisted.
Here's
another thing I want to say.
too?
I'm telling you.
We gonna
let's look at the ratings too.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, look, listen, when you really start talking about the issues at hand, think about it. Who's in charge, Shelley? Who's in charge of the media? It's not black people in charge of media. So if you, and this is going to tie me into the next point, and then Cal, then jump in.
Mm.
Media is infamous for controlling the black narrative. Like Cal,
I got it. But why? And I get what you're saying. I'm not debating that issue, but I'm saying I love what is that? Family, not I was gonna say Family Matters.
Family Guy?
Not Family Guy. It was on for a long time.
Family Ties.
Not Family Ties. Oh. Modern Family. Modern Family.
Okay.
I liked Modern Family. They did the same thing. They had some heavy topics at moments in time. Not as heavy. But they did have a little heavy because they talked about immigration and some other stuff or whatever. But it was still a really good, it's just a lighthearted. It's a show about nothing, right? And it's been on. It was on for 12 seasons because they just kept it light. My point is, where is my show when I turn on that is light? Where
Okay.
I'm just we could go on and on about so many things that happen in the Black family, but hell, my everyday life does not have to be this
Right.
heavy.
Right. So hold on.
Like Black people, we can laugh.
Hold on, Shelly. Hold on. 2 points. 2 points. Modern Family was not a Black cast.
No, I know that.
Okay.
My point,
Wait.
I know that it wasn't a Black cast. What I'm saying, I'm talking about the content.
No, I
For
got you.
years, it was light, and
I
then
know.
we had Blackish, and
Wait.
it started off very light, and then all of a sudden it became this dark cloud of
Let me finish.
I'm a Black man,
Let
and I'm
me
not gonna be
finish.
disrespected as about a Black man, about a white man, and I'm gonna
Hold
this, I'm gonna
on.
blood. Like,
Hold on, Shelly. Hold on. You have to understand that's a relative point right there. The fact that you're dealing with two different cultures, quote unquote.
no, because they had their own cultures that they had to deal with. But all Black, okay, here we about to be high-headed right now because look, I had to turn around because and this is what we were talking about this earlier. Just because you my skin color does not make you my skin folk, right? All of us we deal with racism on different levels. We all deal with racism, right? I get that. But all of us we do not all have to always endure these life lessons on my television all day, every day. Some of the Black shows, and I'm being very general because we can get into the nuances, right? I know. But it feels like the formula for a lot of Black shows now is always somebody who is a criminal. Every Black family don't necessarily have a criminal in there. Just like there's white families that got a criminal in there, but they shows don't depict that. But our shows always depicting somebody that is sassy, somebody that is coming out of jail, somebody that's recovering from something, we all deal with that. But it feels like oftentimes our formula for our television shows is always recasting that same concept.
All right.
And to my point is, Blackish, I stopped. Like I said, I wholeheartedly, I love the whole the family, the dynamics, and everything. At some point, it just was like, okay, I don't want to turn on this show this week, and you now preaching to me yet again. I know what the problem is. I live the problem every day. Can I turn on my TV and you just talk to me about how I can get my child to clean her room?
2 points, Shelly. 2 points. Let me bring up two. I'm gonna summarize.
And that's not a Black thing. That's not a white thing. Everybody deals with their kids not picking up their clothes.
I'm gonna summarize it, Shelly, because I already know. So I'm gonna do my best in summarizing it this way. Okay.
So Kyle can talk.
Yeah, Kyle. Thank you for being patient.
Look, Kyle, they're gonna be in the comments saying, "Let Kyle speak."
No. This is the forum. I want to allow everybody to speak their piece.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you. So two points, Shelly, and this is where the cognitive dissonance comes in, and the programming, self-evaluation I go through every day, and it's painful. I hate it.
Yeah.
2 things. One, and I'm trying to bring this up first in case the second part gets lost. There's a issue in society today that exists in regards to the racism that exists. We can't deny that. Okay.
Got it.
One of the things that cannot be denied either, Kyle, I hope you're listening to this, because I may need you to interject.
Yes.
Is the fact that whenever you bring up racism in a group of white people or in a white context, it always makes them feel uncomfortable.
Agreed. Okay.
100%. And when it comes from a Black person, we're made to feel guilty. We're made to feel, you don't want to talk, you should talk. Now just think about that for a minute. Let that settle.
Yeah, got it.
And
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you with any points you made.
I'm trying to get to a point. Hold on, I'm trying to get to it. So one of the solutions that is suggested, that I believe is agreed unanimously, may not be confessed verbally, is that the only way this country is going to heal from its historical, racial context to be able to move on as a society where we can live in peace and harmony without all this other stuff is if white people deal with the reality that racism exists and accept its accountability. That in and of itself is an uncomfortable conversation. And we will never get past this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, Shelly too. We will never get past this until we face that reality. That's the main point I want to settle in. So until we face that hard conversation, white people, and own and take accountability for their actions, for how they contributed to it, and really mean it, we are never going to get past this situation.
I got it.
Right? part 2, and then that's it. And
They
that's
say that conversation for The View, for
right.
Oprah, for the talk
now,
shows. It does
hold on.
not have to be on my television sitcom every week.
You and your television sitcom, you have to understand this. This is my suggestion, that you are a unique individual. Everybody's not like you.
Correct. But everybody is not like, everybody doesn't want to also look.
Hold on.
Everybody also don't want to look on a weekly sitcom for the message.
Let me finish. No one's like me. No one's like Kyle. We're very unique individual. Unfortunately, though, according to what we see and that is playing out in society among our quote unquote culture, is that the reality is too harsh. Just like your perspective, right? I don't want to see this on my TV. I'm living it already. I'm living it in real life. I deal with it every day in real life. I don't want to see it. When I come home, I want to be entertained. I want to disengage. I want to unplug. I want to feel good. Right? And like Cal talks about already, that's like putting a Band-Aid on a problem. You're not dealing with the source of it.
I'm dealing with it. And I agree with, I know I'm not saying in general, but I'm just saying, like, when we talk about going back to us supporting, Black businesses, I want to support, but I don't want to show up at a restaurant every single week and there's somebody is telling me about, sister, you're not Black enough. What you gonna do this week to be Black enough, right? I want to come into the restaurant. I want to enjoy the ambiance. I want to enjoy the food, right? And I want to walk out and go home and go to bed. It doesn't always have to be Black on Black, like Blackity Black. Like, I know I'm Black. I live Black. I'm working Black. Like, I get it. And I do get that these conversations are important, but
technically brown skin.
But I'm sorry. But I'm saying, like, I get it. Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with the points that are made, by no means. But I find and you said it, most of the better shows, when they start getting heavy, they get canceled. So you can't solve, if you keep getting annihilated, I'm saying that right, canceled as a cancel culture.
Hold on. They're not canceled because of the content. They're canceled because the media and the network is uncomfortable about the topic, and
because it's the content. Like, if you look at A Different World, Debbie Allen talks about, they knew the show was going to get canceled when they brought up the Watt riots, right? And they felt very strongly, or she felt very strongly about, broadcasting that particular episode of Dwayne and Whitley.
Hall with being Minister Farrakhan. Okay, I got you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So, and he was lighthearted for a very long time. Now, I saw the whole debacle of Arsenio Hall, and he did bring up Farrakhan, and people laughed. At the time, you have to be, and he lost the whole platform. Like, yes, I do think that there are moments in time where you take risks. I get that, right? But there are moments in time where I feel like you still have to stand in the space, so that representation is seen, right, in a positive light. Like, that's what made Bill Cosby so great for a very long time. Aside, we're not talking about what has come out, right? We're just talking about what made that show so great for so long, is that they cultivated a series that was just relatable to so many people, that in some spaces where they'd never seen Black people, or they never engaged with Black people, they were able to see Black people in a different light. Imagine if he got to season 3 and he started talking about heavy stuff, episode after episode after episode, then he get canceled. How does that progress us? We were able to get progressed because he got to 12 seasons, and people were able to be like, wow, there's middle-class Black people. So I didn't know that.
So you're saying work from within to change the system?
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
I mean, again, a lot of times it's not either or, it's both, right? I mean, this goes into a discussion.
The show has to
stop. Hey, these are the difficult, challenging conversations that people don't have, and it's heavy. You know why it's heavy? The reason it's heavy is because we have allowed it to backlog, and we keep dismissing it, and we keep pushing it to the side. And now that we talk about it, it's a collection of years of neglect, of not really facing what's really in front of us.
But you
That's
know
the
what?
heaviness of it.
We are rising as a collective.
Yes,
We
we
are
are
the grand
rising as a collective.
rising.
And that's the heaviness of it. And also the reality of it is, like Kayode said, you know, people don't want to put it in those terms, but we do have enemies.
Yeah.
We just do. I mean, you know, they talk about it in scripture, they talk about it in other that we have enemies. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's not just people that, oh, they don't like me, I don't like them. No, there's like real enemies that some people have, you know, and
Yeah.
some of them look like us and some of them don't look like us. And some of them are not necessarily individual people, but organizations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Systems.
Yeah, systems.
Legislation.
Yeah, legislation.
I get it.
But I feel Shelley on that. Like, you know, if I'm looking at a sitcom, I necessarily don't want to be bombarded with message, you know. But it also depends on why I'm watching it. Like, what is the purpose of the show, right?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of you all looking at us right now here at Grand Rise Collective? What is the purpose of you going to a basketball game? What's the purpose of you going to a fashion event? Like, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people lack purpose. They don't know what they're doing, why they're doing it.
And I think the purpose, I think Blackish, I love, I can't even think of his name right now, who created the show.
What are you talking about? I know.
Okay.
Kenya Barris.
Yeah. Clark and Anna, shout out.
Holla.
Yeah,
holla.
I like the fact because it was for so long, and even with Grownish, right? And I got addicted to Grownish because it had essence of a different world, which I really could appreciate. That I appreciated. I like the young lady Yara, her part, but I even more so was relatable to when the brother came on and they gave more element to the HBCU culture with him joining the fraternity and, you know, all of his fiascos and stuff like that.
Right.
So I felt like and for a very long time, when I look at from the time that I guess the Cosby era or the 90s where we had a lot more of Living Single and what was the other one they used to have on Family Matters?
Yeah, Family Matters, Living Single. There's so many other black shows.
Girlfriends.
Yeah, Girlfriends.
Right? There was a huge gap in time before we had a show on TV that was representation of I would say the Black family culture, right? Because for so long, when you look at a lot of those previous shows, some aspects you had the mother and the father, you know, in the show, but it was somewhat typical of, you know, the mother was sassy and the father was the hardworking man, you know, those formulas. But in this particular show, you had mother, father, you had generation. Right. You had the grandparents that was in the house who were, you know, fairly successful in their own. You had, you know, the wife that was the doctor and the husband that was the exec. And for a very long time, we did not have representation on TV that I even felt comfortable turning on the TV to show my daughter. Because what I'm showing her is representation of white people and their success. Right. And to your point, you talked about earlier, media is so powerful and it's so strong. With that being said, as we talked about, I got to the point where I got tired of turning on the TV and it became a household show for me and my daughter. Like we would sit down and we would talk about, and I guess in some ways, as people used to criticize the Cosby Show and said, you know, it's not reality. There's no such thing as a mother and a father who are both a lawyer and a doctor in the house and the kids act good, you know, and I remember that. And then you had good times. I hated good times. Like I hated good times, right? Because I just felt like it very much like the guy the father, he left because he said, I'm tired of being depicted as a father who can't take care of my family. I'm never getting out of this. And he got canceled, as they would say. Right. And I hated that show.
James Amos,
right. And
James Amos.
James Amos. Yeah. And he left the state.
John Amos. I'm saying John
Amos. He left, he got fired. So, we forgot Fresh Prince or whatever, which was, another show. But of course, it had that element of kid from the hood, dad's absent, mom single, right? So it even had its own little elements of what I'm always talking about. And what I liked about Blackish was you didn't have that. You didn't have an outside child pop up in season 4 like you did with Moesha, right? When she brought her brother Ray in, right? You had two working people, as Michelle Obama said, successful, hardworking, successful, intellectual individuals who happen to be Black. And they finally made it to the television. So hands down, I was like, I'm supporting this show. It creates opportunity for me to talk to my daughter about what it's like being a Black child in a predominantly white school, growing up, trying to learn how to navigate that, but still some elements of laughter. My daughter is of a darker hue than me, so we've had conversations about why her skin looks one color and why my skin look another color. So it provided that level of conversation, but not heavy, but just enough where it allows for families to engage in those conversations. Now, it's gone because it got to the point where it was just like,
oh no, I'm glad you said that. Let me bring up this point. So you were part of the SYEP program that I was in, and one of the things that I do is I have real conversations with them, and I share with them how your parents are in a role where they're protecting you from the real world because they don't want to expose you to that, because their job is to protect you. That's what their parents are. Unfortunately, when you become 18 and you have to get out in that real world and you have to survive, now you're going to be hit with a whole new sort of challenges. And if you're not prepared for it, it's going to wipe you out. My question to you, Shelly, don't you think those real tough conversations in that TV show, just like you were having those conversations with your daughter about the lightheartedness with the joke, don't you think it's just as important to have those real deep, dark, tough conversations with your daughter in order to prepare her for the real world? Wouldn't that be the same type of benefit? Not happy, not light all the time, but real conversations about the real world and this world, so that way she's better prepared?
Yes, but the Blackish got to the point where every single episode became a message. And that's the difference. There were, like I said, there were times and moments, even I can remember on the Cosby Show, where it was a little heavy. When they found out about Theo and his dyslexia, when there was a kid, I think they found drugs in Theo's room, the weed.
They found a joint. Yeah, they found a
joint. Yeah. So they talked about that, and I mean, and let's keep in mind the context of the time, right? So there were some things they could talk about on television that they couldn't talk about on television then that they can talk about it now, right? So I want to be fair when we compare, what I saw with Cosby versus what I saw with Blackish, right? But at the same time, there were still more episodes of lightheartedness that had a message. Like I said, Diana, and the Diana one stood out because my daughter is of a darker hue, and they were all talking about her picture, and I can remember experiencing my daughter coming home with a picture, and I was like, well, where's the lighting? So I'm literally having this conversation over the phone because I'm like, why? And my daughter looking at me like, that's what they took the picture. And I remember she said, well, Mom, I'm darker than you. And that created that conversation. But I remember that episode because it was heavy in that moment. They had a few jokes. And then they said, well, we just have to continue to have the conversation with Diane, but we also have to begin to have a conversation with ourselves and be of a reality that she doesn't look like the rest of us, right?
Right.
Good show. Loved it. Second show that stood out was when they talked about, because my daughter's in private school, and many of us in Atlanta who are Black, is a very small sector of Black individuals who send their kids to private schools here in Atlanta, right? And I remember that episode that they had to go to school because Jack and Diana they didn't get into trouble, but they noticed that there were some discrepancies with the way that they were being engaged, and they started talking about removing them and putting them in public school. And then they made the decision to stay. And as they were exiting out of the building, I can't even think of the main character's name now. Ross and Anthony Anderson, I can't think of their real names right now, said it's terrible that we have to work this hard to give our kids a good education, that we always have to be on guard sending our kids to this school and pay more attention to what's happening to them than what we would if they went to a public school. That's many of my mom friends' reality, because most of our kids go to private schools that are predominantly white, and we are always on guard with how we show up, how our kids show up, how they're perceiving our kids, and it is at moments in time it is exhausting because we have to be mindful of how we address certain things. We have to make sure that this one teacher might not be racist, but this other teacher might have a little undercurrents of racism, but we don't want to cut all of them together and say all of y'all are racist, but we want our child here, right? So we have to be mindful of that, right? Yes. That's what that show allowed. It created that space in a funny manner to address it, to prompt us to have these conversations, right? But it wasn't to the point where it started to become extra heavy on every single episode.
Follow-up question. when she get out into the real world and you can't be there with her, you think the world is going to let up on her? You think the world is going to give her some space? You think the world is going to make it light one day and make it harder the other day, or make it light 5 days and then the
Nope.
next 2 days? So,
but when I turn on my TV and I'm paying for entertainment, because that's what I'm paying for when I turn on my Amazon stick, I want to pay for entertainment because I want to laugh. If I want to deal with the heaviness, I'll walk outside this door and I'll go to work like I do every single day. But I don't want to pay. That's like me going to an Usher concert and Usher gets there and give me a whole daggone monologue of what it's like to be a black man in the music industry. It's like, dude, I just dropped $200 on this ticket. I don't want to know. I want you to sing. Sing, dude, sing.
Got you.
Use another platform.
So
Get on Oprah.
Got you. So, Shelly, that's what you want, right? That would make you comfortable. Is that better for your daughter?
Yeah, because she understands, like, you don't always, because that's the problem. Like, now we shifted into mental health. If you keep talking about something over and over and over and over and over again, that starts to become your reality. Look at the kids that you work with, right? You have some kids who will say, I don't see anything other than death. So if all I see all day long is death, what do you think they're going to believe? At some point, I'm going to die young. Because you're not giving them an outlet. You gotta create a healthy balance and a healthy space to say, hey, look at life. Like, your life could be at peace. You don't have to walk out your house and worry about getting shot. There's another reality out there. But if you keep that on my television and in my psyche, I'm going to begin to think every time I walk out my house, I'm going to get shot. I was watching this show, The Shy. I got stuck on it. That show was really good. I binge watched that. I watched all those episodes in 1 week.
From what I heard, those are light conversations too? Those are like Blackish and or are they?
No, The Shy. No.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
I got it. All right. So there's certain shows that are lighthearted in content to a degree with a dash of reality, and then there are other shows that's like in your face, boom, 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 boom. And it's your choice, right? If I want to deal with serious topics, I have a choice. I can watch the show, and if I want to.
But y'all, like the world, they're not giving us a choice, right? Like right now on my TV, I can't think of a lighthearted black show that's on right now. Mm-hmm. That's comparable to Blackish. I can't, and again, tell the people to put it in the chat because it might be. But like, I just finished and the only reason I started watching Shy is because it kept showing up in my feed over and over and over again. And I'm a fan of Lynn Whitfield. Shout out to her. And I was like, well, let me see what this show is about. So I paid for the subscription and got hooked. And there are moments that's funny, but for the most part, it's about life in Chicago with these kids. And I bring that up because they gave it from different perspective of, being in this stressed environment, right? And I remember this one kid, he was going to, they pulled him out of the public school to put him into the private school, and his brother walked up on him and he jumped. And he said, what you doing? And he said, calm down, you safe. And he said, what do you mean I'm safe? And he was like, you in an environment, nobody gonna get you, right? And that's to your point. If that's his reality every single day, when he's in an environment where he can relax, he doesn't know how because his psychic has been programmed that this is my reality. Right? Everybody, and this is what I say, everybody's reality, while we're all Black, our experience with racism is very different. That's not to say we don't experience it, but it's very different. But if you constantly show the same level of racism, how are we really having a deep and thoughtful conversation if we don't show the different sides of it, right? If we don't acknowledge that all of us are not coming necessarily from the hood and all of us are not necessarily coming from the Hamptons, right? There's a middle part that we have to address. And I felt like the Blackish was that middle ground. There is the middle class Blacks that have to deal with every single day life. We're not getting shot up, but at the same time, we're not buying buildings, stocks, and lands, right? We are making it every single day and trying to provide the best lifestyle that we can for our kids. And then you have a group of people who are like, well, that's not my reality, so I don't want that on the TV. I want y'all to talk about the heavy stuff, Black people, right? That's not everybody's reality. And it's not going to be everybody's reality unless Trump get into office. And then we might all be in the hood.
Well, let me say this. Shelly, beautiful. Loved it. I challenged you, came back. I love it. One final part. No, seriously. Look at, we're going to be here forever. Now, as we tied in, I want us to eventually get to the point of tying in our final thoughts to Kamala Harris. But, Shelly, to your point, when I asked you, Is there an attack on the middle class? Like, is there legislation that we have to concern ourselves politically wise with legislation being passed to destroy the middle class, make a divide where it's just the rich and the poor?
Look, say it like this. At next week episode, let's talk about it, because we have to define what the middle class is, because right now I don't even see that there's a middle class. Just to be really honest with you, they're saying middle class is a six-figure salary. When you get hit with taxes, I'm below middle class, to be quite honest with you. But the short answer to it is, I think the attack has already occurred, right? I think the middle class has already been hit, in so many different ways. Even to the point where it's very, very scary. And me working in higher ed, I see it where it is about to go back to, I think it was like the 40s, or I think it was like the 40s or 50s, where they said only the rich was able to get a higher education unless you was able to get a scholarship. Don't quote me on that. I'll have the statistic, but there was at one point in time, rich people were able to get a quality education, and those who were poor had to survive off of scholarships and communities pulling together to pay for pay the tuition. At the point where we're moving towards, I can very foresee the rich are going to be able to get a higher education, and we're going to end up having a whole bunch of skilled out of work workers, right? Because we got AI coming up. Even though I know AI is not a new thing, but the way that AI, like I went into a restaurant and it was a robot that served me, right? So where are the servers? I was in Walmart 1 month in a little town where my godmother lived, and I was getting checked out by people. And then the next month I go in there and it's all registers, and it's like 5 people, right? So when we talk about education, they have passed laws, like if you have student loans, which is why I think Biden had been pushing, cancellation of student loans. If you have student loans, the likelihood of you getting approved for a loan for your child is going to decrease. So think about that. If I only make 100,000, but my student loan debt is 200,000, and I haven't been able to put a dent in it, and now my child is of age, because remember I said earlier, we have younger parents, right, that had kids. So I haven't even really put a dent in it. I'm trying to live this American dream. How am I going to send my child to college if they're saying, oh, well, you have too much student loan debt, you can't pay for your child, we're not going to give you a loan, so you have to pay out of pocket. And the housing market, the interest rate is extremely high. I'm riding around in a hoopty, but if you see my salary, you'd be like, why is she riding around in a hoopty? Because I'm trying to have an American dream with a house and have my child in private school. And these are choices, don't get me wrong. However, these are choices that I'm making that I feel will offer her the best future. However, yeah, I'm being attacked left and right.
It's the black tax.
No, it's not even. Honestly, it's a triple tax, right? It's a triple tax. As we close this out, it's a triple tax that needs it. It is there is the black tax, yes, but there's also, I want to send my child to private schools because the public school in my area does not suit my child or suit my needs, because it's I'm not saying necessarily in my area.
Yes, it could be
right. It's not safe. They're not able to teach. There's shortage of teachers. They're not paying the teachers, right? So let me send my child to there, but I'm still getting taxed for this private school or for this public school education. I'm getting taxed as a middle class person because I don't have enough tax shelter, because as we talked about early on, when will I have time to build a business, right? If I'm working just to survive, because the taxes that are coming out is absolutely ridiculous. Right. And this is just me. Even if I was in a 2-parent household, I know people with who are in 2-parent household where both parents are working at least 1.2 jobs.
Yeah.
And that's just to make ends meet, because stuff has gone up. And that's in Atlanta. I can't even begin to tell you what was happening when I lived in New Orleans, because that's real. The housing is the rent for a 1-bedroom was like $2,200.
Where?
But the average salary, hourly wage in New Orleans was at $14. I think it was like $14 an hour.
Yeah. Wow. That's not.
It's a huge. Yeah. So that's why I said earlier, there is no where. You show me where the middle class is at, and I'm gonna go move there.
All right. So no, real quick. So Cal, to your point in regards to the article that you brought up in regards to Kamala Harris in politics, right? As we close this out, how do you think, or do you think, if we had, well, let me phrase it this way. If you had a chance to require anything of Kamala Harris, what would it be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my sort of segment quasi question is, do you think Kamala Harris would help our friend Shelley with regards to her tax situation?
And we gotta give Kyle time to talk.
Oh man,
we kept passing the ball to each other. Kyle was like, wait, hey.
Hey, Cal.
No,
That's it. The floor is yours as we close this out. I love this segment. Yo, real quick before I should save that for the end. But just not forget to big up Shelly because she killed it. Go ahead, Cal. This is my question.
Yeah, I mean, I think I might say a quick rhyme. I sit patiently waiting to gather my thoughts, like Shirley Chisholm, unbought and unbossed. You know what I'm saying?
Yes!
So I just wanted to throw that out there for the family, you know.
Get your time back. Claim your time.
Yes. So in reference of Kamala, representative, presidential candidate Kamala Harris, I just want her to live up to her word. If whatever she says she's supposed to do, I want her to be about that, as they say in the street, be about that life. Don't say one thing just to get votes and then you do something else totally different. Be authentic. That's what I want her to be. Be authentic, whatever that is. If that's cursing out little babies, then hey, that's you. Be authentic. With or without the white gaze. That's what I want her to do. Be authentic with or without the white gaze. And I want to make sure that whatever plan that I come up with collectively in my groups, that she's willing to not only listen, but to give it a sincere consideration and action in her campaign and in her so-called presidency, if or when she gets elected. That's it.
Thank you, brother.
That's it. Everything else is on me and my people.
Very good, Shelley.
Oh, I said my closing thoughts, but I did. What do they say in Congress? I yield my time to the gentleman in New York. to the New York gentleman.
That real political. I'm in Jersey, by the way. But okay.
Oh, well, I was giving my time to Kyle, but I'll give it to you too.
Kyle, you got it again. Shelley yields her time to you, Kyle.
Okay.
Any extra?
Where are you, Kyle?
Oh, I'm in New York.
Okay, I yield my time to the gentleman in New York.
No, well, my thing is we had a very lively conversation today. Had a very lively conversation, a very fruitful conversation. And I appreciate Shelley's opinion and energy on the platform. I'm glad that she's able to express herself, as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a citizen, and as a fellow colleague. So I'm glad that, we were able to talk about various things, different things, because this is part of the platform. This is also part of relating to our listeners as well, because a lot of people are going through a lot of various things, some good, some not so good. And when we talk about politics, it bleeds into the everyday actions of going to the club, DJ talking over the turntables, over the songs, and getting charged $300 for a strip of steak. You know what I'm saying? Like it all ties into that, because who sanctioned the land to be able to have a business there? Who built that structure in order for a business to exist? Who created the wages where you could charge $60 for parking? See, all that plays into the overall global geopolitics that we all are a part of, whether we recognize it or not. And Kayode, like your point was saying earlier, with the reality of things, the reality is going to hit you one way or the other. Are you going to be prepared? And I think it's really about us preparing ourselves, us preparing our children, us preparing our cultural community in regard to these changes that are always happening, these attacks amongst our people and our ideas and bodies and politically, So, this is where we're at. This is where we're at. And how do we not only navigate through it, but also how do we thrive in it? Because we also have to remember, out of all the stuff that's happened to us in this country and abroad, there have been spaces, whether they've been a multitude of spaces or whether they've been spaces in solitude, where people have thrived. And we always have to remember that. Despite everything that is happening to us and has happened to us, we are still here.
Thank you, brother. See, that's why, Shelly, this is the dude right here. The way he articulates his stuff, man, this is the educator, y'all. Educator/entrepreneur. This is the brother. So thank you, Cal. My final words, we strive. I want to make sure I put that down, include that in my final words. With regards to Kamala Harris, I've been around long enough. I got to be careful how I say this. I don't want to be a half glass empty type dude, but I've heard many stories of people tried to change the system from within and they end up burnt out. They tried to change the system from within and they end up mentally retarded and damaged, and it didn't work out. I say that to say in regards to both political parties, they're both two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful for, the platitude of the placades where Democrats pretend that they have the voice or care about the people, particularly people of color, PLC. But I also, thanks to my pop and history, learned that the Republicans were once the Democrats at one time as well. So it's a flip-flop thing that they're playing. All it is a game playing with, it's a social experiment playing with the people. It's the people in charge who are playing this game. With that said, although, I hope that Kamala Harris, when she's in office, be that change or picks up where Barack Obama left off to an extent, which we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, in regards to they can't stand up there and be for Black people because it'll be the death of their campaign or the death of their servitude in office. I am going to look at it this way. Whereas if she does make a change, praise the Lord, amen. But if it ends up being the same old recycled garbage where once you get in office, she's going to flip the script and go back and play the same rules to the same game, I'm taking comfort in knowing that I put my trust in God and that God is in charge. And I seem to forget, I think many of us forget that he's in charge anyway. So everything that's happening, he already knew was going to happen from the beginning because he's the Alpha and Omega. So if I keep that in mind and I stay focused on him, which is what I'm doing, y'all, I'm staying in the scripture and I'm staying in prayer as best I can. I'm just realizing that he has it already planned out already. And if I stay grounded in him and stay in his peace, no matter what these idiots do out there, no matter what office they're in, I know that I have his protection. He's going to take care of me, and it's going to work out for me and those I love and care about. And we're all going to be a community and get through this. So that's my point with that. As we started the podcast off with Kamala Harris and the whole complaining thing. But I also want to finish off and say I am ecstatic about Shelly joining us. Yes. She is a spitfire for sure. Y'all stay tuned, family, because now she's on board. That means every hostess, we're going to be having some hostess current events. You hear her. You already hear how she is. So you know when you come to the podcast, you're going to get something special. And we're excited about how she's going to interject her perspective on the guests that we have on. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited to see how she's going to rock. Cal kept talking about perspective co-host.
Yeah. Oh, no, potential.
Potential co-host. I can't say it anymore. I hope that she's the co-host, y'all. She's the co-host. I've known her for years. Yo, she's awesome. So those are my final words. Cal, I leave it up to you to do the final closeout like we do, how we do it, and that concludes our podcast. Thank you, family, for staying in tune. We're going to chop this thing up and give it to us. Okay, Cal, okay.
Indeed. So, family, thank you for listening. We You know, we always appreciate you all chiming in with us and the ongoing support. So again, like, share, subscribe. You know, our platform. We got more episodes coming with Shelly. We got more episodes coming with people we've interviewed, dealing with some education pieces, dealing with some health pieces, dealing with some political stuff that we're talking about before. The elections are upon us. So just be active and be mindful that these politicians work for us. And just always keep that in mind. And on that note, again, we take donations. Again, we take the kind that jingles, but we'd rather take the kind that folds. You know what I'm saying? So look down at the bottom, you know, check us out. And on that note, we're gonna do our
Yes.
peace out.
And that cheesy peace out. You
Hey
got
man.
to 3, 2, 1. Peace.
Peace.